Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel moves to increase law enforcement in Arab-Israeli communities. Israel closes down 5 international offices, and a Holocaust film wins a prestigious award. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with the latest news in Israel. Police thwarted an attempted stabbing attack today at an army roadblock in the West Bank. According to the Israeli army, several soldiers were inspecting a Palestinian man at a checkpoint near the Hermesh settlement when he pulled out a knife. The troops shot and wounded him as he attempted to stab them, and no soldiers were injured in the attack. The attacker was treated at the scene for his injuries. Israel's top domestic security chiefs met yesterday to lay the groundwork for a new program, which aims to increase law enforcement in Arab-Israeli communities. Prime Minister Netanyahu met with the public security minister, police chief, and head of the Shin Bet to sketch out the details of the plan. The officials agreed on establishing extra police stations in Arab towns. There will also be increased oversight into illegal construction and the collection of illegal firearms. Their meeting followed the Prime Minister's announcement yesterday regarding the need to close social gaps between Jewish and Arab communities in Israel. Just 10 days ago, a $4 billion development plan was approved for the Arab sector. But Netanyahu says the initiative is very much dependent on enforcing Israeli law in Arab-Israeli communities.
במקביל אנחנו ניישם תוכנית מקיפה לאכיפת החוק במגזר הערבי. אני רוצה להעביר ששום דבר שנעשה בתחומים שונים, בתשתיות, בתיירות, בחינוך, במסחר, בכלכלה, הדברים הללו לא יוכלו להתקדם אם לא נטפל בשאלת אכיפת חוקי מדינת ישראל במגזר הערבי. אלה שתי תוכניות שמשולבות זו בזו, והן תסייע ותיטיב עם כל אזרחי ישראל, ובראש ובראשונה עם האזרחים הערביים.
Israel has delayed returning the body of the Tel Aviv terrorist Nashat Milhem to his family for burial. Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan made the decision after a consultation with the police, in an effort to ensure that the funeral doesn't become an event supporting terrorism. The police want a small funeral to be held that's only attended by close family members. On January 1st, Milhem killed 3 people in Tel Aviv after shooting up a pub and then making his getaway. He was shot dead in his hometown on Friday during a shootout with security forces. Since his death, Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank have commemorated him. On Saturday, hundreds of Palestinians took to the streets in Gaza to honor the shooter in a rally sponsored by Hamas. And yesterday, a Palestinian Islamist group held a symbolic funeral for Milhem, urging more Arab Israelis to carry out terror attacks. Looks like Shas leader Aryeh Deri will be Israel's new interior minister. The Israeli government has unanimously approved his appointment despite his history of corruption. In 1993, Aryeh Deri was forced to resign from the role to face corruption charges. He was convicted and served a 3-year prison term between 2000 and 2003. Deri was forced out of politics for an additional 7 years because his sentence included a moral turpitude clause for convicted politicians. Now, 22 years after his resignation, Deri will return to the Interior Ministry. Before making the appointment, Prime Minister Netanyahu received a go-ahead from Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein, who said there were no legal impediments. Deri currently serves as the Negev and Galilee Development Minister. Israel will be closing down its embassies and consulates in 5 different locations to cut costs, but not everyone is happy about it. The country will be shuttering its embassies in Belarus and San Salvador, and closing its consulates in Philadelphia and Marseille, France. Plus, there will no longer be an Israeli ambassador to the Caribbean. Israel says the move is meant to cut costs, but officials in Belarus are offended. According to Russian media reports, Belarus's foreign ministry spokesman is calling Israel's decision a mistake. Israel's former foreign minister Avigdor Lieberman also says the move is ridiculous and will cause bureaucratic headaches for around 130,000 immigrants from Belarus in Israel. Israel closed its embassy in Belarus in 2003, only to reopen it a year later. Have you ever read an article online and wanted to leave a comment about a specific sentence or paragraph? The Israeli startup Feedback has figured out how to let you do just that. Liran Rosenfeld is the CEO of the startup, and he joins us with more. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, thank you.
So what is Feedback? What does Feedback do?
Feedback is a modern commenting system that sits on the side of the text instead of at the bottom.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit more? What's the difference between being able to comment at the end of an article versus being able to comment in the middle?
When content consumers want to comment, it's never the entire thing. They always want to comment about a certain paragraph, a line, or a video, or even an image. We allow them to do that. Content consumers can now say something specific and be heard. This is something that they can do at the bottom of the text, because at the bottom of the text, they write with lots of other comments, and they can't really say what's in their mind. So they write comment that's not of quality. When it comes to publishers, Feedback allows publishers to have a new real estate for advertising, especially on the mobile. And also, advertisers can now have a new place to be in.
Interesting. Yeah. So what about Feedback is different from other companies that offer similar features?
Well, Feedback is the only company today that is interactive and sits on the side of the text. The killer feature is that it's in real time. This means that if I want to say something specific, I can start a conversation in the middle of the article, so when other content consumers are reading, they can spot in a very nice way that there's a conversation happening in a certain place at the text, which brings them closer to the text and to the article.
Right, so on that note, this startup is probably not only useful for the users themselves, but the websites and the authors who are writing this content, because that feedback is clear.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yes, Feedback, we just had a nice pilot, a test with an Israeli newspaper, and we've seen that Feedback increases user engagement. We see that 25% of the readers actually go to the side of the text and read what others had to say. We see that there is more of quality content, and that brings a lot of value.
Interesting.
Yes.
And you know, there's obviously, we've heard a lot about this, but there's a lot of negative feelings related to internet comments and anonymity in public forums. So it makes us wonder if being able to write comments in public spaces is even a positive thing for people, right?
Well, you know, the publishers make so much effort to get the attention of their users, and they spend so much money for that. Instead, the users, the content consumers, they go to Facebook, they go to Twitter, and they comment in other places. Why not help them comment in a better way? When you comment on something specific, you know what you want to say. When you go down to the end of the text, you kind of lose it with a lot of other information. With Feedback, we allow consumers to be part of the article, and that makes them write nicer things. And I think that part of the new internet, you can say internet 2.0 or 3.0, it's part of that is being heard. It's being part of the content and being able to express your feelings. And if you can do that on a certain piece of information that's interesting for you, you would write a quality comment. And that's what we've seen in our pilot.
Well, it's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. And,
Thank you so much.
We're excited to see where this heads.
All right.
And the Golden Globe for the Best Foreign Language Film goes to Son of Soul, a Hungarian-made movie about the Holocaust. Saul is forced to cremate the bodies of fellow prisoners at the Auschwitz concentration camp. And as he goes about his terrible task, he thinks that he recognizes his son just barely alive among the bodies. The prestigious Golden Globe Award was presented last night to the film's director Laszlo Nemes, who says we must never forget the Holocaust.
You know, the Holocaust has become, over the years, an abstraction. For me, it's more a face, a human face. Let us not forget this face. Thank you very much.
It's time for our Hebrew word of the day. I'll start with congratulating all the Golden Globe winners for their amazing films, which brings us to tonight's word, seret, or movie in Hebrew. Seret can be used to describe a roll of film from a camera, a movie, or a ribbon. But it's also a very popular word in Hebrew because it's used in lots of common phrases. If an Israeli tells you, at chaya beseret, they're literally telling you that you live in a movie. But what they're really trying to say is that you're wrong. Whatever point you're trying to make is fantastical and it makes no sense. You might as well be starring in a film. If that Israeli also tells you at ochelet sratim, or you're eating films, you're definitely being too dramatic about whatever point you're trying to make. So here's the main point. If the word seret comes up in a conversation with an Israeli and you're not talking about going to see the movies, it's time for you to change your argument. If you have a suggestion for a word you'd like to learn in Hebrew, like our ILTV page and Facebook and submit your suggestion in the comments. If your word is chosen, we'll explore it and put your name on the screen. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tomorrow is expected to be sunny with a high of 68 degrees. Wednesday should have more of the same beautiful weather with sunny skies and a high of 68. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.93 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv. And don't forget to check out our new breaking newscast every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.